Welcome to another episode of Ask Eddie and Ann. And tonight it's also Charlotte. I see Charlotte lurking. And of course, a rare occasion, here's Tiz. She doesn't care about the camera whatsoever. She just wants me to hold her right now.
Aw.
Which I will do for a few moments until she starts squirming around and needs to get down. We'll see. See, I'm recording this in the upstairs part of my house, and since I'm home alone tonight, Kathleen is in Las Vegas at a trade show. Um, Tizzy would be alone downstairs, and at this time of night, she doesn't like that at all. So
Aw.
she would just be crying her head off if I left her downstairs. So she's here with me now. She will eventually start crying anyway, but and then everyone will hear what a horribly raspy voice she has. She's so cute that when you hear her voice, you go like, "Really? That's what she sounds like?" Oh God. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Okay,
Eh,
shall we jump right in? A lot has been going on, Anne. A lot has been going on in my world, and we'll see if we touch on some of it in these questions
Okay. Well, the first
tonight.
question is Dave from Tallahassee. I'm a huge film buff and a history professor, and I may be going to my first NOIR City this March in Los Angeles. First, are you attending? Any advice on NOIR tours, stores, sites? So, but he addressed this to me. No, I'm not attending. Or any
Oh, okay.
videos or books, etc., that you know of for LA NOIR visitors? That could be a great Ask Eddie question.
Okay.
I'll
Well,
say
okay. That,
you two should consider a NOIR travel guide. Anyway, thanks for reading.
a noir travel guide. Yeah, there's one more thing that I need to add to the list. Uh, yeah, I will of course be at the festival on the weekends, on the Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Alan Rohde will be doing the rest of the way, the Monday day. And he'll be around, of course, on the weekends as well, but I'll be doing most of the hosting on the weekends. Uh, there is no, well, there used to be a group, maybe they're still there. Esoteric was the name of the company, and Kim Cooper and Richard's last name is escaping me at the moment, but they did noir tours in LA, bus tours. I don't think they're doing them anymore, and they were generally on a theme, like it would be a Raymond Chandler tour or a James M. Cain tour or a movie tour or something like that. If you go to the festival at the Egyptian Theater, the pilgrimage would be to the Larry Edmunds bookstore, which is right down the street, which is the greatest film bookstore in the world now, exclusively selling film books and a lot of movie stills and posters and things like that. Say hello to Jeff Mantor and Sean Hathwell, the proprietors. Tell them I sent you. They'll add $1 to the cost of any of my books. Um, it's funny, I will make this a somewhat brief story, but a few years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, I think I did a thing called, it was an app for your phone called Detour. I think it was good Detour or Detours or something, and they were walking tours for your phone done by what notable people or something. And I did one, a noir tour for downtown LA. And it was one of the more difficult things I've done related to noir because of the technical aspects of the technical limitations that were imposed on me because of this app. Like you could only walk certain ways and you had to make certain turns in certain places, and it was a lot of work, but it was very, very frustrating. And we recorded the whole thing on location so that they could calculate this on the app, like how long it was taking me to tell a story while I was walking between locations. And then it was just weird because they'd say, okay, that's going to be too long, you have to do it again and make it shorter. And oh my God, It was stressful and strenuous, and it was not the best way to tell a story. Plus, I had to do it all live, and the recording was terrible. And I'm in downtown LA. So we were being constantly hassled by people on the street, which would have been funny as hell if we were filming it, but we weren't. It was, and so it was just bizarre. Then I had to go back and re-record the entire thing in a studio after doing it on location. It was like the way they used to make movies, right?
Yeah.
Where they'd get lousy recordings out in the field, and then you'd have to go back in and loop it all in the studio. And that's what I did. I never listened to it, never heard it, never even looked at the app after it was all done. I didn't download it. I didn't do that. That happens to me a lot, where like I finish a job and it's like, good. I've never listened to an audio commentary that I've done. It's just like, did it. What do I need to listen to it for? Anyway, that's that. But this is also a good way, and for us to plug that the upcoming issue of the Noir City magazine is completely about Los Angeles noir. I mean, the plan, of course, was to have it done in time for the festival, but then we got a little surprise in that the dates of the festival were moved up this year from
Yeah.
April to the end of March. So we probably won't have the magazine out in time for the festival, but everything, Dave from Tallahassee, everything you are looking for is in that issue.
Okay.
Our colleague Mary Mallory does a fabulous article on all of the actual locations used in noir films. So it's a whole guide to, not just downtown LA, but all over the place, Glendale and Malibu and Pasadena and all this stuff. And Imogen Sarah Smith has a wonderful article on 3 unexpected LA centric films. I do a list of like great neglected LA noir films. It's just everything is about LA in this issue. So, Dave, you'll get what you're after.
Yeah. And I would just say, sort of close to where TCM is, there's the Hollywood museums, like right around the corner, right in that area, in the old Max Factor building, which I thought it was fun. Like it was a cool little place to see. But sort of around, yeah, and Hollywood High is near there as well.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing that up, Anne, because in addition to the Hollywood Museum, as you mentioned, in the old Max Factor building right on Highland, up the street a few blocks near the Hollywood Bowl is the Hollywood Heritage Museum, which is older Hollywood stuff, and it's set in they actually moved the building where Cecil B. DeMille filmed The Squaw Man, the silent film. This is the actual structure that the movie was made in, is now moved to this, ouch, you're biting my finger now, is moved to this very convenient location just off Highland. And it's great. There's a lot of really cool stuff in that museum that people will enjoy looking at, especially, it's mostly older movies, silent films, 20s, 30s, some stuff from the 40s. So if you're a classic movie fan, that is really a good thing to check out. Here, there she is. There she is in all of her freaky glory. Hey, Tiz.
She sounds like she smokes.
Yeah, yeah. She doesn't, but it's just a cranky ass voice. Okay. All right. Our next question is from Arlene, and Arlene says, "Could you tell me which method?" Wow. Okay, this is weird. Can you tell me which method of execution was really used in California in the film noir time periods, or does it even matter? Sometimes it's the chair, like in New York. Other times it seems to be hanging. Not sure if gas has been referred to. Sorry to be so macabre. Okay, Arlene, that was weird. It sounds like Arlene might be working on some kind of project and she needs to know the answer for this. Well, I will tell you one thing, Arlene. It has never been the chair. The electric chair has never been used in California. Only New York is that cruel. No, it was executions in the penal system in California were originally by firing squad, and then it was hanging. Up until 1937, it was hanging, and then after that, it was the gas chamber. So I don't know where you think you saw the electric chair in a movie set in California, but that wouldn't, or a movie. I'm thinking you're referring to like movies and things, but that was it. I mean, in Double Indemnity, it's the gas chamber, and I Want to Live, it's the gas chamber. Um, yeah, I mean, although it looks on the posters like Susan Hayward is being strapped into an electric chair, she's not. That's just to hold her still when the pellets drop. Okay, how's that for macabre? Okay,
Types.
so there's your. And Tizzy doesn't like that question. She just complained to me. Like, move on to happier things.
Well, did you get her from the big house?
Did I get Tizzy from the big house?
Yeah.
No, she was rescued from the side of the freeway. Okay, Franker, you're going down. Okay, there she goes. She's back on the floor now. All right. Oh, and look, taking her place. But this is a big cat episode.
Not the keyboard.
Okay. Flap that tail. There you go. Look at that.
Got that tail.
Hey. Your cats are much more entertaining than Tizzy. Sorry, Tiz, but
well, I gotta tell you, Ellie and Tyrion went home. Ellie went home first because Tyrion kept hiding when Brendan came to pick him up. So, but I boxed Tyrion up this weekend, and he went home.
He was a good-looking cat.
He was, and a cuddle bunny. I'm already missing him because he was super cuddly. But Brendan informed me that I had to give him back. So you're happy though. She's happy that he's gone.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
we are on Mike. I am new to Ask Eddie and suspect this has been addressed before. What do you think of what has been called Nordic Noir, especially the Swedish-Danish series, The Bridge? I find the series to be one of the best things ever done for television anywhere in the world.
Then how have I missed it? I've certainly heard. I've heard people talk about it.
Yeah.
But I have never seen The Bridge. Do you know the show, Anne?
I do know the show. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I only got about 3 episodes in. Oh, I know people have really liked it a lot, and I just didn't. So I didn't really feel like, spending the time to watch it all the way through. So personally, I didn't like it, but that is an unusual opinion. Most people think very highly of
it. And do you remember how old it is? It was made when?
Probably 10 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I do like.
That sounds about right. I remember people talking about it quite a bit a while ago, and I somehow just missed the whole thing. Plus, I get a lot of those shows from 10 years ago, the early long form shows, kind of all, I confused them all, like The Bridge and The Killing and The Affair and all this stuff. It's like I can't keep track of them all. I don't know which is which, but I heard very good things about that.
Yeah,
who knows? I may check it out at some point.
And just if he's looking for more Danish stuff to watch, I really liked The Chestnut Man, which is available on Netflix, and also Equinox, which I also really liked, that was on Netflix. So those are a couple Danish noir type shows that I can recommend off the top of my head that are easily available.
Okay, very good. And it's funny. I know a bit about Nordic Noir. More from the books than from the movies. Yeah. A few years ago at Litquake, which is the literary festival out here, I was asked to moderate a panel of authors of Nordic Noir, and I'm embarrassed to say that I'm kind of forgetting who they were right now, except for Lisa Markland, who was like a TV personality turned mystery crime fiction author, and she was memorable because she was taller than me. I mean, she was like your classic Nordic beauty. She was like 6'2" or something, and blonde and just incredibly statuesque. And she sort of completely dominated that discussion just by sitting there. The other guys were all like typical authors. They were like, slouched in their chair, wearing their cable knit sweaters, and Liza was just like this force of nature. So she signed a book for me that I still haven't read. I'm embarrassed to say. I hope she's not watching this. I doubt it because I think she has much bigger fish to fry.
Yeah,
Uh,
I really like the Department Q novels, and they made films of like three of those, technically four. The fourth one they changed casts, but those are really good movies, and I really like the books. And it's kind of interesting because you can tell that the author likes movies because every once in a while he'll like slip something in, and you're like, yeah, you're a movie fan. I can tell.
oh yeah, you always can. You always can tell because they always, especially guys who write detective fiction, they have to tell you that they're jazz fans because they always make a big point about what he puts on when he comes home and like which side of the album is better, and so yes, I think that's why detective fiction exists, is for authors to give you their favorites. Okay, that was a really inadequate answer to Mike's question about Nordic Noir, but that's the best I can do tonight. I apologize. Okay, Duncan from Ventura says, although filmmakers had to work within the boundaries set by the authoritarian Salazar regime, boy, our people are all over the place. This is great. Did any film noir emerge from Portugal in the 40s through the 60s? And what about Franco's Spain in the same period? Well, I'm confessing here, Duncan, I have no idea about Portuguese noir. I don't know if it exists. I haven't seen it. Uh, Obviously, I shouldn't say obviously. I realize we have a great cross section of people who watch us, Anne, and some of them are very well versed in noir, and some of them, are pretty new. So when I say obviously, Death of a Cyclist, the Spanish film, is the most famous noir film from that country, uh, by Juan Bardem, who is the uncle of Javier Bardem, the actor. Um, there are a few others I know of. I think there's a film, and I'm just going to stick to what I know of the 50s, during Franco's regime. There was a film called the Red Fish, I think it was called, or just Red Fish, from 1955. Um, Express Train from Andalusia, which is, I think, 56. Beleta, I think Francisco Beleta was the director's name. That's a heist picture. Uh, and one that I have not seen, but that I'm very eager to see, is called El Ojo de Cristal, the Glass Eye, from 1956, which I understand is an adaptation of a Cornell Woolrich novel.
Ooh.
So in our efforts to round up every Cornell Woolrich movie made in every corner of the world, there's one that has escaped me that interestingly came to my attention because it was screened at the Noir Film Festival in the Czech Republic last
Mm-hmm.
year, and that's how I, just scanning their list of titles, I saw that one and it was like, wow, this sounds really interesting. So I'm on the lookout for that. And it's nice to know because they showed it that it does exist in some form. So I intend to track that down.
That would be very exciting. I'm all for that plan.
Yeah, those are the only ones off the top of my head that I can think of, all from the 50s. Um, yeah. So and I'm you know, but Death of a Cyclist is the main one because it's actually it's it's somewhat of a political film or a class film. And Bardem was constantly being arrested and imprisoned by the regime, and was quite a controversial figure. So I hope that helps, Duncan.
Yeah, and I've been kind of getting into this is hyper specific, but like these late 60s, early 70s psychological thrillers from Spain. And like I've watched like three with Carol Baker, and I'm down to the last one on Shudder, but I've also watched a couple others. So if anyone knows that maybe more titles, they're like these late 60s, early 70s Spanish thrillers. They're kind of like giallo thrillers slash
Yeah,
horror films. Then like send them to me. Like you can put in the comments on the Facebook on this or message me via Facebook because like I said, I'm down to the one with Carol Baker that's evidently a remake of Diabolique. So
interesting.
yeah.
Carol Baker in that time did some pretty odd stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She did some weird movies.
Yeah.
Obviously going back to Something Wild that she did for Jack Garfield and with Ralph Meeker. That was a pretty unusual film made in America, but she made some of these films. I haven't seen them all, but like I think she did one called Orgasmo or something like that. And
yeah, Orgasmo was like the weakest of the ones from Spain so far. I didn't really like Orgasmo
what's
that
the
much.
one you're referring to? I think I have a press book for it. Is it like called Paranoia or something? Or
Well, yeah, the one that's the remake of Diabolique.
what's that called? Do you remember?
I think it is. Oh God, I can't remember. But I just saw one she did. God, it was so good where her character is mute. So she does not say a word during the entire film. And she was really good in it.
That's great. So she doesn't have to speak Spanish. I mean, that's kind of brilliant.
Well, it's also, I mean, it's like the Italian films and Spanish films. If that international cast, it was not shot sync sound. Everybody dubs it in
Everything is dubbed. Yeah.
Dubbed in later. But yeah, but that one where because that's like a challenge, she was just using her facial expression and stuff to convey all the stuff that was going on. She did a good job and stuff. And the one I watched this weekend, she was like a race car driver. And she had nudity in that, and she had a nice body. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Carol Baker indeed did have a pretty good bod. She was well, I didn't think we would be talking about like a little Carol Baker mini festival here that you were having.
Yeah, I said, it's just one of these things where because Shudder sometimes will put up like kind of a block of things like that, and there's been a couple other Spanish ones up there too. So like I said, if anyone knows other like Spanish titles, that would be just let me know because
send them in.
Because the costuming and the set design and stuff is really. It's just really interesting from that period.
It is pretty intriguing how when I'm researching for a story I'm writing, like I'm doing this piece right now about overlooked films, noir films set in LA. And obviously most of these are later, are what you would call neo-noir films because most of the people who read Noir City have seen the classic Hollywood Double Indemnity and Crisscross and Sunset Boulevard and Kiss Me Deadly. These are classic LA noir films. But, like recently, I remembered that I had seen this film when it first came out in like the early 1970s called The Outside Man with Jean-Louis Trintignant. And it was set in LA. I just remember that the film was set in LA. And I found it, of course, just screwing around on the internet. I found the film and watched it again, and it was mind-boggling because who was in this movie? Because when I saw it back in the '70s, a lot of these names meant nothing to me. Like the guy that Trintignant is sent to L.A. to assassinate. He plays a hitman sent to L.A. from France to kill this mob boss, and the mob boss is played by Ted DeCorsia, and of course his wife is played by Angie Dickinson, and the hitman gets double crossed, and there's a hitman sent to kill him that's played by early Roy Scheider, and then the only person who helps out our Frenchman is the saucy cocktail waitress played by Anne Margaret.
Oh,
So this film just has everything going for it, and it's not good.
yeah.
It's just not good. So I'm still going to write about it just because it's very interesting as to why it missed the mark. But
So,
it is a pretty good look at LA in that time period.
so who's Jean-Louis Trintignant?
The Conformist, you would know him the minute you looked at him.
Yeah.
He was a pretty big star in France. Not as certainly not as charismatic as Belmondo or Alain Delon,
Yeah.
but but he was used in very serious, high-minded films. So that's why this one was a bit of a surprise, because this is nothing but a goof. You know, it's a bunch of Frenchmen coming to L.A. to riff on crime movies and to really poke a lot of fun at American culture, and it doesn't quite balance out.
Yeah.
But you see so many familiar actors in this one. It's pretty entertaining. It has an awful Michel Legrand did the score, and it is like it's a cartoon version of those '70s jazzy pop scores from the '70s, and it's just like, oh my God, this is driving me nuts, this score. I really hated it. Anyway, moving on. I think we're at number 5 here.
We have 5?
I
Okay.
think so.
John from
He's from Bethesda, Maryland.
Bethesda, Maryland. Sorry, I'm having to read off my phone because I was having like a weird thing happening.
Home
with
of
my
the
computer.
Naval Hospital where my wife was operated on when she was 4 years old.
Okay. While the work of well-known composers of film noir scores is available on CD, it seems the only way you can listen to all the rest is to watch the movie itself. I understand why recording labels would be hesitant to invest in issuing recordings of these lesser-known soundtracks, but are you aware of any sources such as university collections, libraries, or museums one could turn to reach the otherwise lost music?
I don't know how lost a lot of this. I mean, I have a lot of it. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can just pull. Oh my God, the light in here is really bad right now. But for example, here's the score to D.O.A. by Dmitri Tiomkin. Here's the score to Touch of Evil, Mancini. Here's a whole tribute to David Raxon with the Laura score and a bunch of other stuff. Here's a collection of film noir music that was actually all of it re-recorded by a pretty top flight jazz ensemble, redoing all of those. And I know that there are actually like there's a company that puts these out. I want to say it's maybe Starlight Music or something like that. They did the Bernard Herrmann score for On Dangerous Ground, the complete thing, all the incidental music and everything. That was really great. If my buddy Stephen Smith is watching this, he should chime in on Facebook and note for people where you can actually get this stuff, because Stephen is a musicologist of the first order, and he has written biographies of Bernard Herrmann and Max Steiner, and he would know where to locate all of this stuff. I mean, a lot of it sent to me, and I don't really keep track of where they're coming from, what companies are making them. But there are a lot of companies out there who specialize in finding and making these available in limited editions. So it's not as hard to find this stuff as you might think, John. Um, so I'm hoping that Stephen can chime in on the Facebook feed and let people know the names of some of the companies. And then once you have the name, it's easy to find their website and see what their catalogs are. Okay, Ken from Oklahoma says, you have shown so many film noirs over the years on TCM and at film festivals. And of all the films that you have considered for showing in such venues, is there at least one that is available, but for some reason you've never shown it? Whether it's a good film or not, I'm asking, is there one that comes up, but so far has never been shown? Yes. That film is Undercurrent, right? The Vincent Minnelli film with Katharine Hepburn, Robert Taylor, and Robert Mitchum. I just happen to know off the top of my head that that's a film that I have never shown anywhere at any time. And it might be one of the few Hollywood-produced noir films of the classic era that I have not shown. I mean, hell, I've shown the most obscure B films imaginable, circumstantial evidence, and all this stuff. But I don't like Undercurrent. I'm sure it has good things in it. Anne, are you an Undercurrent fan?
Terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie. It is. It's just terrible. And it's like you want to say, oh yeah, but Katharine Hepburn is in it. Katharine Hepburn and Robert Mitchum. How bad can it be? It's not good.
Yeah.
So
I think Robert Taylor was the only one in that whose performance I actually liked. I think Robert Taylor was actually good.
Which ought to be indication as to the problems with this movie. When Robert Taylor gives the best performance in a film. Sorry, Bob, but
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know. I suppose now that this has come up and I've admitted this, I suppose I should go back and watch that film again to see, like, why does this put me off? But I'll be quite honest. I saw that film in 1997 when I was researching the original Dark City book. And I don't know that I could finish the movie. I don't think I finished watching it. And I there was no place. I think the only time I ever mentioned it was in the section I wrote about Mitchum, just because Katharine Hepburn said he couldn't act and he was terrible, and if he wasn't handsome, he'd never have a movie career. And I just got to quote her as saying that, and I had to mention that because they worked together on this movie Undercurrent. That's where the quote came from. She was a little bit wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we know about the quote because Mitchum would do it himself. He would say that whenever people said, "What was it like working with Katharine Hepburn?" He would say, "Well, she said I couldn't act and that I didn't have a good chance in this business because I was, and but he would actually imitate her.
Yeah.
When and that was, I can only imagine how funny that was. Robert Mitchum imitating Katharine Hepburn. But that's the movie. I'm not even going to try to get a number two. I mean, that's the one.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. Now I'm going to have to check in on the Facebook feed when this is posted, because I'm sure somebody is going to type, "That's my favorite movie," because it's inevitable. No matter what I say, when I say this movie is terrible, somebody always says, "How dare you? That's my favorite film."
We'll see if the Undercurrent fans come out of the woodwork.
Yeah, we'll see. Probably. I'm sure Martin Scorsese loves it, because he's a huge Vincent Minnelli fan, right? So he's
so am I. That's why I watched it.
I know. And he's made so many great movies, but that one just doesn't work. And you can't say it's because he doesn't have a feel for noir, because he's done other movies that are kind of borderline, The Bad and the Beautiful is kind of, but that's show business. He was comfortable with show business stuff. I don't know. This one didn't make it. All right, let's leave Undercurrent behind and move on.
Okay, this is from Christine. I'm hoping you can have a screening of Johnny Dark with Piper Laurie and Tony Curtis. I found an old movie poster card in an antique shop and had it framed. I have never seen the movie, but I presume it's noir? Question mark.
I love this. I found a lobby card. Will you please show this movie? Because I have the lobby card and I want to see the movie. Well, I hate to disappoint you, Christine, but Johnny Dark is not a film noir at all. It's like a race car movie. Tony Curtis plays a guy who builds a race car, and he's determined to race it, and and that's it. I mean, it's a funky kind of semi low budget race car movie, and I mean, I'm not saying it's not watchable, because Tony Curtis and definitely Piper Laurie always watchable.
Yeah.
But even though it is in a long, I think I have. Who knows? Maybe I misled people, because I remember when I was introducing something on TCM, whether it would have been either Johnny Eager or Johnny O'Clock. I think it was one of those two. And I did a whole spiel about all the Johnny movies that were made. Like, why was Johnny the most noir name? Even though I think Nick is the most noir name for characters in noir. No, there was, except for alias Nick Beale, there was no Nick movies, but there were all, literally like dozens and dozens and dozens of Johnny movies. Johnny Allegro, Johnny Apollo, uh, Johnny Stool Pigeon. But Johnny Dark, even though it sounds very noir, is not in any way noir. I have no idea why they call it that. So I hate to disappoint you, Christine, but that is, I hope that lobby card is good looking. Because if you bought it because it was noir, it really isn't. Okay.
Okay.
Brian from Casper, Wyoming.
It's where my sister was born.
How about that? Wow. He wants to know, are there any plans for high definition restorations of either Nora Prentice or The Unfaithful? These two noirs are wonderful. I agree. And both benefit from Ann Sheridan's stylish performances. The current versions on DVD and airing on TCM deserve upgrades. Oh, Brian. You would think, because both films belong to Warner Brothers, that good copies or even camera negatives must reside in the Warner vault somewhere. True enough. Will they see financial incentive in pulling those negatives out and doing this? Extremely doubtful. My pal George Feltenstein, who knows everything about the Warner's archive and is the guy responsible for the Warner Archive collection that put so much of it out. Also, I'm not telling any tales on George here, but this is true of him and everybody else who has that job at other studios. The challenge is you can only requisition so much money in a fiscal year to do restorations and things of films, and invariably the accountants are going to tell you need to restore Revenge of the Nerds. You don't need to restore The Unfaithful, because Nerds is going to outsell Unfaithful 5,000 to 1. So that's just the world we live in. I agree that I think Nora Prentice was the very first movie I showed on TCM when I did The Summer of Darkness back in 2015, and I didn't realize how bad it was going to look. It was kind of an embarrassing first step out of the gate because it's crummy. I completely believe what Brian is saying here. They do need upgrades. I know that Brian Hollins, who is on our board of directors of the Film Noir Foundation, he's offered to put up the money for a restoration, but it belongs to Warner Brothers. And, I think it's kind of weird to spend that kind of money for a film that belongs to one of the biggest entertainment conglomerates in the world. Like, why are you doing their housekeeping for them? It seems kind of weird to me. So um, that's just how it goes. I mean, you I think the people that do this for a living, they have a long wish list, and you just wait for the opportunity when every year something wish list maybe will get checked off. And so we'll see how it goes. But given that Warner Brothers now is trying to pay down 40 some odd $billion in debt, it seems unlikely to me that they're going to be spending money on restorations of their library. I will leave it there.
Okay, 9. Okay, active violence is on my top 10 list. Any plans of blah, blah, any plans for releasing a Blu-ray of this great film? We were so happy the Angel Face finally made it to Blu-ray, hoping that active violence will follow suit. Michael E.
Once again, Anne, you managed to group two questions that have uh, great synergy. Michael E., the bad news is active violence is also owned by Warner Brothers now. So, although that was an MGM film, Warner Brothers owns the MGM library prior to 1950, and Active Violence was made in 1948. So it is owned by Warner Brothers. I don't really I don't know why it hasn't been re-released again. Uh, you'll notice that like Kino Lorber has been putting out a lot of noir, but most of it is from Universal. So obviously Universal has no problem licensing their films to get new Blu-ray releases that they themselves are not that interested in producing. So Kino has stepped up to do it. I don't believe that Warner Brothers is excited about licensing their films to other entities to produce the Blu-rays. So, uh, you know, George did all of that years and years ago, back in the early 2000s when Warner Brothers was putting out those fabulous box sets. But those were all DVDs. So the upgrade to Blu-ray, I think those are coming few and far between. I remember how excited George was when he got the go ahead to do a new remastered and restored version of Gun Crazy, which is also a film now that is owned by Warner Brothers. But I don't like I said, this is not we're in a little phase right now where you should not be anticipating new restorations coming of classic films from Warner Brothers. Okay. Robert says, I have not been able to find a good digitized copy of D.O.A. Okay, we're on a streak here. Is there one? And if not, why is that? It is one of the great noir masterpieces. There is a adequate DVD I remember of D.O.A. The reason for that is because that movie was produced by the Popkin brothers, and their entire catalog at some point was purchased by a man named Wade Williams. And Wade was an eccentric fellow, and we'll see what happens. It's interesting you're asking about this, Robert, because I'm not quite sure. I know that Wade, I'm uh, I think Wade died. And what happened with all of his films in the collection, I'm not entirely sure. He was a little bit of a paranoiac towards the end, and he did not want to work with people because he thought everybody was trying to rip him off. Even though you just really were asking like, why can't we put out a better copy of D.O.A. or The Well or The Second Woman or Impact? Oh, these were all films that were produced by the Popkin brothers, and sadly, Wade, who just was a one man operation, his attitude was sort of like, no, nobody's going to screw me. I own it and I'm keeping it and blah blah blah. Hi, Tiz. And and that's not a good thing. So I'm not sure, but I do know that the last version I saw of it, Wade also for a long time had Detour, and Wade is the guy who made the remake of Detour with Tom Neal's son. Not a good idea. And so he, for a while, he was even going to bury the original because he wanted the remake to like supplant the original. Until he realized there was no demand for his film and a lot of demand for the original. So anyway, that's the story there. So um, whatever the last one was of D.O.A. what wasn't so bad, but you're right. It should get an upgrade to Blu-ray, but I'm sure there are more enterprising people than me who have looked into how to make that happen. It's because of Wade that it has been difficult. Anyway, there's that idea.
And this is David from Carmel Valley, California. In old movies, when two people kiss on screen, why do you never hear the smooch? It always looks and sounds like a very chaste press of the lips.
Uh, because that's the way it was, David. I'm curious to. I'm trying to imagine how old David is because I'm going to assume David is fairly young because uh, it just wasn't done. I mean, the production code would not allow an open mouthed kiss in a classic Hollywood movie. That not only weren't you going to hear the sound, you aren't even going to get an open mouth. I guess that was part of the thing. They didn't want to hear it. So if you kept your lips closed when you kissed, there's no sound to be heard. So that was it. They were happy with that. So it's so funny because you'll notice that actors in that era they try to compensate with a lot of aggressive hugging and like moving around and stuff while they're not doing anything with their mouths, right? Uh, and it's so fascinating to me. Like I remember, I wish I had a picture of it right here, but I remember the one of the first movie posters I ever bought was the one sheet for The Strange Love of Martha Ivers. And I bought it specifically. I mean, it's a great poster and a wonderful artistic representation of the main actors. Stanwyck most impressively. And the thing that killed me about it was she was going in to kiss Van Heflin on the poster and her mouth was open. And it was so stunning to see this image because you saw her tongue and you saw her teeth. And it was like this feral thing. It was like, I can't believe it. Now they somehow got away with it on the poster. Not in a movie. You would never see that in the movie. I mean, and I did see a publicity still that the poster the artist used as the basis for his painting. And yes, her mouth is open and her tongue is visible. It's pretty hot actually, and but never, 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 never. And of course, it was a big deal when directors tried to find clever ways around all of that stuff. The kiss, famously, the kiss in Notorious, between Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, that was probably the most groundbreaking of the time because it just went on for so long. As I recall, the deal was you can't show this and you can't show that and blah blah blah. And Hitchcock was like, well, there's no rule about how long it can last. So he just had them in this embrace, turning around and the camera's moving and everything, which everybody ended up imitating later on. I think Brian De Palma tried to outdo him in Obsession by having Cliff Robertson and Genevieve Bujold like kiss for like 20 seconds longer than the kiss in Notorious or something. But that's it. It was just not allowed to protect America. It was not allowed because America needed to be protected. Because if they heard the sound of kissing and they actually saw people's lips moving, the entire country would fall into utter chaos instantly. I mean so nobody wanted that, right? I mean, we had a war to win. You can't have people just kissing on screen and stuff. I mean, that's ridiculous. Okay.
Okay.
I think we should move on from that one.
Okay. This is you. Question 12. Our final question of the night.
Oh, I'm reading it, or
you're reading it?
Oh, okay.
You do the even numbers.
Oh, I just figured that out. Thanks. Wow. I had no idea. Okay, this is from Eric. Eric is curious to know if anyone has ever done a careful analysis of the lipstick that is applied beyond the edges of the lips. You did it again, Anne. Lips are the connection here. Applied beyond the edges of the lips in terms of the good girl, bad girl values being expressed. Do bad girls have values? I see it on a lot of episodes of Perry Mason, and the woman in question is always sinister, if not slatternly. Good word. It's most commonly seen among women with thin upper lips. See Barbara Stanwyck. Also see also, I mean, Gloria Graham. Worth a discussion, I think. Then Eric says, maybe I should write a learned article about it, which is interesting because I'm assuming Eric is a guy. If I do, I'll submit it to you for your comments and corrections. I'm guessing you grew up seeing women with over-applied lipstick hanging around the boxing arena. Ha! Such arenas must be rife with them. I got to tell you, Eric, there were very, very few women in the boxing arenas in my youth. That was not a thing. And interestingly, there were probably more in my era than there were in my dad's era. Women just didn't go to boxing matches. That was not a thing unless they were like the card girls between rounds and stuff. And believe me, their lipstick was perfectly applied and nobody was noticing it anyway. But here's the thing, Eric. This article that you are suggesting has been written for the Noir City magazine already. Nora Fiore did this. It had to be within the last 2 years. She did a brilliant article on not just this particular application of lipstick, but lipstick on all these actresses and what it meant. And she pulled out brilliant examples of all of this. I know what you're talking about, though, and I'm not the one that doesn't quite fit your theory here is Stanwyck in Crime of Passion, which she has that lipstick that's going above her upper lip, and I'm not sure who thought that was a good idea, but it certainly isn't because I mean, she's a professional woman in that movie, a newspaper columnist who becomes a bored housewife when she marries Sterling Hayden, the cop. And then, of course, she becomes kind of psychotic because she's. I mean, you've seen this movie, right, Ann?
When she has the breakdown at the hen party, I lost my shit. That was like the best scene. Oh,
Yeah,
in case people don't know what a hen party is, it's a party of like all women. Sorry.
yeah, hen party.
Yeah.
But that's a really, really interesting film and a very good script
Yeah,
because
because I
it's
feel
like
like the script was pretty much saying,
she
this shoe was
shouldn't have
driven
married this
crazy.
guy. She should have stayed a professional woman.
Yeah.
I mean, being cooped up in a suburban house with nothing to do drove her absolutely batshit crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen the movie, but it has a pretty shocking ending. I mean, she decides that if her husband's going to get the promotion, because she hates all these other women
Yeah.
who are all just talking about how great their husbands are and how it's a very anti-materialism, proto-feminist kind of thing. And she decides that she's going to sleep with Sterling Hayden's boss to get him this promotion, and played, of course, by Raymond Burr. and I'll never. The character's name was Tony Pope. I remember that. I always remember that for some reason, like Raymond Burr playing a guy named Tony Pope. And yeah, it was a good film. And then she's betrayed because her husband doesn't get the promotion after she's debased herself in this way, and there will be hell to pay. So, but she had the weird lipstick. There's even a picture in my Dark City book. There's a full page picture of her from that movie where she's got the lips exactly as Eric is describing, and it's baffling. Barbara Stanwyck didn't need to do it. Now Gloria Graham, I know, did it because she was obsessive about her mouth and thinking there was something wrong with her mouth, and she would stick stuff in the upper lip to make it fuller, and then she would put extra lipstick over the yeah, kind of not a smart idea. Anyway, but Eric, I wish I could tell you exactly what issue that is, but I believe I need to get better about maintaining tables of contents on my desktop here with all the stories that we've done. But I know it was within the last 2 years, I would say, that Nora did that. Nora's done some really great pieces for us. She did the whole thing on diners in film noir, where she wrote it like it was a travel piece, like where to go and which diners to stay or to visit when you're on the road. And of course, they're all familiar to folks who've seen these noir films. But we need to get Nora to write something else for us very soon. Okay.
Yeah. So we do sell back issues of North City magazine. So
yes, and hey, let me take this opportunity to just throw this in while the good loyal listeners are here. We haven't gotten the latest edition out in print, and people have been asking, like, why can't I buy the last issue as a printed magazine through Amazon? And I have to say, it's entirely because of Amazon. I don't know what the deal is, but we have been trying to upload that issue to Amazon for almost a month. And for some reason, they keep rejecting it because they say we don't have an account, even though they're selling all the other back issues that we have. And you cannot talk to a human being at Amazon. It's just like doesn't happen, And those other issues sell like crazy, and Amazon keeps most of the money, right? So it's like $14.99 or something, and Amazon's keeping $13. Why in the world they don't want to collaborate with us to solve this problem so that we can put out more issues in print is baffling to me. They are the worst customer service company. Okay, maybe this will get a reaction. Maybe somebody watching will know somebody at Amazon and say, "Man, this is," but it is actually kind of ridiculous. And this is something that, man, I haven't even had a drink tonight, and I'm like just going off because it blows my mind uh, how weird the world is these days. Because I tell people we can do this and we can do this and you'll make this much money, and they're like, I don't know. Whether it's like booking films or putting stuff out on Blu-ray or making a print edition of our magazine. It just seems like people who are into anything that has to do with tech, especially, it's just like, if I'm not making $200,000 of crack, what's the point? I'm not interested. And it's like, Jesus, it's just otherworldly to me. It's like, well, people actually buy this stuff, and if you don't want to do it, I guess we can't force you to do it, but it's just the lousy customer service that drives me crazy. It's just like you can't find a person at all to deal with. Anyway, sorry. Okay, right. I went a little off there.
No, it's fine, because literally someone just asked today in the comments on one of our a NOIR City magazine Twitter post about when can I get the print issue.
Where's the print edition? Yeah, I know.
We've been getting that.
Very, very frustrating, but we'll try to get it sorted out, and we will have it sooner or later. Who knows? We might have to take the business someplace else than Amazon, even though that's where everybody likes to go with that one-stop shopping,
Mm. Mm. So just anyway, a quick recommendation for you, Eddie, because I know you like Argentine films. So there's this director a couple of years ago, he did this incredible horror film called Terrified, which is amazing. So he did another film last year that's up on Shudder, When Evil Lurks, and it is amazing. Like, it's one of the best films I've seen this year, not just like horror films.
Okay. Where Evil Lurks.
Yeah.
Here's where evil lurks, right here.
When evil lurks.
When evil lurks. That's this thing right here. Aww. Evil. No, she's not. She's a sweetheart. She's a sweetheart.
She's good.
She is good.
She is.
She is good. She's going to be. I don't think she's going to go to LA with me on this next trip, but she was just in New York. I think I told you that. She traveled with me to New York, but you can see why she's a good traveler. She just curls up and it's like, whatever. Okay. And she's had her dinner tonight, so she's not too squirmy, which is good. Anyway, so I think we have landed.
Yeah. So just a quick reminder, everybody, if you would like the digital edition of NOIR City magazine, you just sign up on our email list and donate $20 or more to the foundation, and we send that to you. And it's you get it, and it's a link, so you download it. That's the actual just digital issue. And obviously, when you see something like this, it's you definitely get it before you can get the print issue. And you just do that, filmnoirfoundation.org. So just want to throw that out there.
Whew. I'm not allergic to you, kid. I'm just a little sneezy right now. Great. And I look forward to seeing folks in LA.
And what are the dates for LA, Eddie?
March 22nd is opening night. March 22nd, we'll be showing our new restoration of No Abras No Que Esa Puerta. Never open that door. Sounds like something that should be on Shudder. But it's, it's interesting. One last quick thing. We haven't actually posted this yet. We'll figure out how to do it. But for the first time after the festival in Oakland, we did a poll of the passport holders. People who bought passports and saw everything, we asked them to name their favorite films in the festival so that we could kind of get an idea, like a focus group, of what movies were playing really well with the audience, because obviously we'll have 7 more festivals around the country after that. And I'm trying to remember it now exactly what like the top 5 were, but it was pretty cool because it was
Victims of Sin,
Victims of Sin,
Latro.
La True, La Bête Humaine
No.
was one, and I forget what the fourth one was, but Across the Bridge
Mm-hmm.
with Rod Steiger was number 5. It was really interesting. Oh, it was our restoration. It was No Abras Nunca Esa Puerta.
Yeah.
Was also in the
Yeah.
top
That
5.
was it.
So I think people obviously. I mean, I had shown Victims of Sin previously, like 10 years ago or something. But for a lot of people, it was either a new discovery or they just went nuts for the new restoration of the film because they had it makes Nino and Sevilla so radiant on screen. It's a pretty remarkable movie. So those will be playing, and many others as well, but those will be featured, I suppose, in upcoming festivals because they all were extremely popular.
Yeah, and it's because I was kind of surprised La Bête Humaine did that well. Like when I saw the other ones, like that kind of surprised me that was the one that be, and but that is my brother Sean is getting that for his birthday because he's a huge train enthusiast.
Very
And
good,
just
very
when
good.
they were talking about Gabon wanting to do the film because he was really into trains, so I'm hoping
Yes.
I'm getting the criterions. I'm hoping there's something about that on that disc in the commentary or something because I think Sean would get a charge out of.
Yeah, it was so interesting. Like that. That's why he wanted to do the film because he wanted to play it being a train engineer.
Trust me, my brother Sean would have done the same thing.
That opening sequence in the film is so extraordinary,
Yeah.
where they're just like highballing into the station, and the camera work is so fantastic. And I think I mentioned that uh, Claude Renoir, who was one of the camera operators, almost died shooting that. He almost was decapitated because they came so close when the train flew into the tunnel. It's pretty. It's, the whole audience kind of takes a big breath when that happens. Anyway, fantastic movie. But I agree. I was a little surprised because it's so downbeat. But
Mm-hmm.
then this is a noir festival, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and there's no overestimating Jean Gabin's appeal to an audience any place, anywhere. I mean, he is just so great. And Simone is also just fantastic in that film. So anyway, I was very pleased by those results because it showed me that the more adventurous programming is meeting with the audience's approval. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do this again one of these days soon,
Yes.
right?
Hopefully in
Before
two
we'll
weeks. We're trying to
Yeah,
get
we'll
back
do
on.
it before I go down to LA
Yeah.
for the festival. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate everybody making their comments, which I'm hoping, Steve, you're one of those, so that you can help out. I forget who it was that asked the question about the soundtracks, but I'm sure this is what I love about this is that the people actually interact here and can provide information that I don't know. So that is good.
It's very much appreciated.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Okay.
All
Oh, one
right.
last film recommendation, Influencer, which is they have it up on Shutter, but it's really a neo-noir about a young woman who's a social media influencer that goes to Thailand and she befriends another young woman, and that's all I want to say about it because it's got so many good twists in it. But it's like
Okay.
oh my god, it's got a
Cool.
very interesting antagonist. I'm not gonna tell you who the antagonist is, but it's a very good performance.
Sensational. Okay, I will look for that. I really enjoy genre films that tap into very topical things because I watch them kind of historically because that this is it's like when I find a movie from the 40s that is that's a B movie that's dealing with a subject that like the major studios weren't really doing anything interesting with, but yet wow, here it is. It's like the Argyle Secrets, like the idea that the guy was after a book of American businessmen who collaborated with the Nazis. Like no studio in Hollywood was doing that story.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like, yeah, like the dark side of being a social media influencer would be a really good idea for a film right now. And
Yeah.
those are always like thrillers and horror films. That's where they tap into this stuff. Because I think the storylines are so tried and true, and in some ways um, easily grasped by an audience. But then what you do differently with it is what pulls the rug out from under the audience and makes them really love the film. Like, oh, I didn't see that coming.
And this one has a couple really good ones where that's why like I got Ted to watch it. And I barely said anything to him about it. And I said, I don't want to give anything away. And he really, really liked it.
Cool. Okay, great. Maybe I will go watch that tonight.
All right.
Okay,
So
thanks for the recommendation, Ann.
absolutely. Everybody have a good night and thank you for watching.
Take care. See you next time.